What I'm hoping to do in this class is give the actual nuts and bolts of how do you put a story together? How do you create tension? How do you build character? How do you even decide what to write about? How do you write a finale? How do you weave multiple plot lines together in a way that your reader can follow them and that they serve each other, that they play off of each other? I'm Dan Brown, and this is my masterclass.
Hello everyone, it's Lewis P here. Today what we're going to be talking about is the Dan Brown Teaches Thriller Writing Masterclass. As always guys, I have a link in the description which will take you directly to the masterclass, so I got you back there. Today what we're going to be talking about is an overview of the actual class itself. We'll take you into the actual class as though you've just purchased it. We'll go through every single component of it and see exactly what you get and figure out if it's actually worth it for you, whether you're a writer or somebody that tells stories in your professional life and actually sees if all of the lessons here are relevant to your craft. And before we jump into the actual class itself, let's just do a quick overview of Dan Brown and what he's all about. So the masterclass has 19 lessons. It's super exclusive. He's never done anything like this before. Of course, I have a link in the description so you can get the masterclass for $90. So I got you back there. I'll leave that there. Craft page tuning suspense. Now, if you're a writer, of course, this is going to do wonders for you. So if you don't know who Dan Brown is, I highly recommend that you actually pause this video right now, Google his name, and then type in Dan Brown movies. You'll see all of the movies that he's done. And the big one is the Da Vinci Code. If you haven't seen the Da Vinci Code, probably turn this video off right now and go watch the Da Vinci Code. I believe it's on Netflix right now, or it's probably on like YouTube Play or whatever. So check it out. It's amazing. One of the best films, or one of my favorite films of all time. And if you're really into that film and you love audio commentary in movies, it gives you a lot of context around how he's built those characters, which you wouldn't get from the audio commentary from the actual DVD or Blu-ray when you buy it. So it's really cool. Either way, let's jump right into it. So packed with secret symbols and high stakes suspense, Dan Brown's thrillers have sold more than 250 million copies, including one of the world's best-selling novels, aka the Da Vinci Code. In his masterclass, Dan unveils his step-by-step process for turning ideas into gripping narratives. Learn his methods for researching like a pro, crafting characters and sustaining suspense all the way to a dramatic surprise ending. And he really does do that. So we'll jump into the class very soon. Of course, 19 lessons. She had a class workbook as well. Very, very high quality. We'll go into that very soon later on, so make sure to stay to the end. And of course, office hours, which is probably the most valuable thing in this class, whereby you can actually send Dan Brown a message, a question, a video question, and he may actually respond to it provided Masterclass picks it out. And if it's really good, Masterclass will most likely pick it out for you. So let's jump right into it. So this is what the Masterclass actually looks like when you purchase it. I have the All Access Masterclass, which gives me access to every single class. Obviously, I have a link in the description for that. Let's just jump right into it. So this is how a basic class is structured. There's the lesson plan, and then once you watch the lessons, you will get a little tick. The tick indicates that you've watched the lessons, which is great. You have a community, which is basically a community for people that have actually taken the class and they discuss the topics around it. So a lot of writers are on there. I noticed that there's a lot of marketing people on there as well. PR, all those types, they're all in there and they're actually discussing ways to communicate and increase their communication, make it better through these ideas, which is really cool. There's obviously a resource section in this. Resource section is essentially the class workbook, which I actually download while I talk about office hours. As you can see, it's already downloaded. It's only 4.4 megs, but office hours is obviously the component where you can actually ask him a question, which we've already discussed. He may respond to it, provided Masterclass picks your question. So this is what the class workbook actually looks like. Of course, I'm not going to show too much of this because I want to pay respect to those that actually purchased and that invests in Dan Brown's writing masterclass. So I'm just going to go over the first 2 pages. And as you can see, it's very, very high quality. There's almost 90 pages. Also, let's not forget, guys, that once you click into a class, every single lesson has its own individual chapter PDF as well. So as you can see, this is how it's sort of structured. So once you click on, obviously, if you want to start the class, you can press the red button, which is fine. So the best way to complete these masterclasses, what I've found over the time, is to download the PDF file. It's a very different PDF file. And then you watch the video and then you go back and do the PDF file again, which is really cool. And then if you want, you can go and discuss it as well. So once you click on one of the videos, you can actually see, I won't go into too much. I'm not going to show any of this, but we will see that, of course, you have people discussing the video, talking about it, what they learned and how they're excited for it, which is really, really cool. I'm not going to take you any more into that because I want to be respectful for everyone that's actually purchased the class. So let's jump right into it. Introduction, which is great. It talks about an overview of who he is. It's only 4 minutes. That's how long that one goes for. And then he jumps right in. The anatomy of a thriller. He talks about the elements of the story. He talks about the 3 C's, which is really cool. What are the 3 C's? It's the clock, It's the Crucible and the Contract. He will discuss that in detail. Very, very powerful and necessary for every single story you ever write. So this isn't just about writing thrillers. It's about all writing. So if you're any type of writer, this masterclass is actually relevant for you 100% and basically mandatory in my opinion. It's sort of like a Bible, if you will, because it goes step by step in what you need to do, all the blocks. It's really, really powerful. He talks about pace. He talks about the promises that you need to really give to your reader and obviously how to build suspense. Really, really cool. Finding the idea, basically how exactly do you find an idea and what you need to do in order to find that. Really, really powerful. I want to go through these briefly and just give you a tiny bit of context to just know exactly what you're getting. Then he talks about choosing locations, creating suspense through locations and how to really frame your story around that location. Very, very powerful. Of course, there is a chapter PDF and obviously there's a video. This is a very short video. It's only 4 minutes and 30 seconds, but it's very, very powerful and impactful and it gets to the point on what you actually need. Then the next one is about creating heroes and villains and basically how to frame them, which one you should be looking at first, and giving them really human characteristics which resonate with your audience. Dan teaches his techniques for crafting heroes that your readers will connect with on a human level. Then learn how to create complex villains who really function as a catalyst for action and conflict. He talks about giving heroes motivations, relatable motivations. For example, a hero that needs to save his parents from a virus or something to that effect. Essentially making villains as human as possible and then giving the heroes the 3 C's that he discusses very early on in this masterclass. Then he talks about universal character tools. Basically, how do you create authentic secondary characters that supplement or complement the primary characters? How do you create somebody that supports the villain or the hero? Really, really cool because this video goes for 16 minutes and 25 seconds, as you can see here. I always get a lot of questions about how long these masterclasses go for. As I go through them, you'll actually see as you go. The next lesson is really exciting and really cool for someone like me that loves the Da Vinci Code and really takes it to the next level from a contextual point of view. So if you look at Da Vinci Code and this lesson in general, it talks about characters. Now, essentially, there are a few different types of characters that really supplement the heroes. And in this case, the hero is a teacher, and he really got a lot of motivation from his mentors to build these characters. So if you know anything about Dan Brown, you'll know that his heroes were actually teachers, and that's why he makes his heroes in movies and his books teachers, which is really cool. So he talks about the muscle of the group, the puppet master, the conspiracy theorist, the red herring, amazing. And obviously there's a workbook, a PDF, and then I want everyone now just to pause the video and read this comment very quickly in your mind because you can see how he pumps everyone up as he's writing this. On one hand, you're getting this class for Dan Brown 100%, which is great. But on the other hand, you're also buying into a community that's quite funny, quite witty, quite hilarious. I actually like them a lot. And most of the people that have taken this class are freaking hilarious, which is great. Research, he talks about what is required to actually go into research, how much time it takes. And that's why books take so long to write. And that's why creative copy takes so long to write as well, because you need to do research. He talks about so many different things as well on this topic. He talks about you need to be passionate about what you're actually researching. Otherwise, you're going to give up along the way because you will hit roadblocks and you will hit a lot of knowledge blocks as well. So it's so important that you're researching and you're passionate about that research. Otherwise, if you're not interested and you're not passionate about it, you won't even end up doing it. And again, you got to read these comments. They're hilarious. And this class is so new. If I go down to, like, say, life as a writer, there's only one comment. So it's really, really new. A lot of people haven't jumped on this yet, but I'm telling you now that they will over time. He talks about building a story from the ground up, from the first few chapters all the way to the end. There is a step-by-step guide on what he does, and he really teaches you exactly what you need to do step by step on building your story. This is a big one, and it's very powerful. Creating suspense part 1. Obviously, this one goes for 13 minutes, and the next one goes for 11. So you're getting a good 25 minutes for this. Creating suspense part 1 is all about how to build within your stories. Really, really powerful. And he gives you a framework in order to actually build this. He talks about making promises, which is actually one of the C's, which is the contract component, and making them early so your reader understands exactly what they're getting into and ultimately figuring out what will be the end result. And then the story is essentially how does the character maneuver in order to reach their destination. Really, really cool. That's all about creating suspense in this case. So very cool. And of course, one of the other big 3 C's is time, aka the clock. So compress the timeline. Very, very powerful. There's another dedicated area to that for creating suspense. The next component is writing chapters and scenes. So what he will do is lay out an exact framework that you need to follow in order to build an outline and then ultimately a first draft of your copy, which is really cool. I just want to go off on a really quick tangent. What he talks about later on in the masterclass is basically having the ability to overanalyze what your content is, what you've written, and having the strength to throw it out if it's not of the quality that you think it needs to be at. That's just a small side tangent on your first draft. And remember, not everyone gets it right at the start. Actually, he admits no one gets it right at the start. But the point is, in this, he talks about structuring your story, developing the big moments, and ultimately manipulating tension and releasing it to your audience, to your reader. Then he talks about selecting and utilizing point of view. Point of view is a very, very big thing in story writing, of course, but he takes it to the next level. He looks at how you can frame certain chapters, certain pages, certain paragraphs from a point of view of a character. So for example, in my world, if I was branding a character for a brand, and many brands actually do this, they brand different characters. A big one is Salesforce. Check out the Salesforce website and you actually see that they have multiple different characters. They even have a villain character. So now that I've taken this class, I understand exactly how these brands and the point of view that these characters need to feel and how to portray these characters from the point of view of the villain and the hero and obviously the secondary characters. And then we have exposition and dialogue. So essentially what this really means is how do you appeal to your reader's senses and write dialogue that communicates essential information while also revealing who the character is as they read. This is a very fun video and it goes for almost 17 minutes, which is great. Editing and rewriting. So this is what I alluded to earlier. Dan shares his practical system for tracking the status of an edit and demonstrates how to strengthen your project through revision. So he's not afraid to be light on yourself, but also be harsh on your context and your copy. If it's not working, he will completely rewrite it. He gives us an example whereby he wrote 130 pages and it took him like 2 months to write this because of all the research and everything that went into it. He then traveled with it. He went to an island and then eventually he read it again and realized this is actually not that good. So he talks about that process. And once you have a system in place in order to write good copy or write a good story, regardless if it's a thriller or whatever genre that you're talking about, this process will work for you. And then of course, the process that we were just alluding to. When it comes to writing, Dan Brown's philosophy is very simple. Protect the process and the results will take care of themselves. Learn how to beat the writer's block and structure your writing habits in a way to maximize your creative output. He definitely teaches you these processes to a very high level. To limit distractions, be tough on the process, be gentle on the output, go crazy with your ideas, write for hours, don't write pages, simulate creativity through actual physical activity. He really advocates being healthy, having a healthy mind at all times, and don't focus on the details too early. Build the plane as it's flying. And then ultimately, life as a writer. Dan explains the importance of persistence. He shares tips on how to build a team and believes in you, essentially, and teaches you how to write a query letter that will stand out in the agency world. And this is actually very, very impactful for many different things. Whether you're a salesperson or even someone actually in the agency world and you're trying to land a client, Dan will actually teach you different ways in order to separate yourself from the market itself. Really powerful. And Dan's secret to success, and this is a really big one, and I actually use it now while I make my new YouTube videos all the time, and it's a piece of wisdom that he encourages, and no one's actually seen anything like this before, and I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to leave it for those that actually invest in this masterclass to support Dan Brown's masterclass. But he has an amazing secret that I now use for all of my new videos that have come out, and it actually works from a mental perspective and also from a time perspective. It's actually a godsend. And as you can see from the comments, the reviews, Dan Brown was excellent, enthusiastic, and loves what he does, and it shows. It's infectious. He inspires and motivates with a wealth of knowledge. So it's really, really powerful. And as always, guys, I have a link in the description which will take you directly to the masterclass for $90. So I got you back there. Let me know in the comments below whether or not you took the class and what you think of it, what it taught you. Of course, utilize the masterclass's community. They're a great bunch of people and also super motivated, and that will in turn motivate you as a writer or someone that's in the creative world. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out so much. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Louis P. out.
I did my best to keep her satisfied, to keep her I don't know any of the words to this damn song, so I'll probably get them mostly wrong. But